that reaches every single congressional district in the nation and makes sure that there is an organization that receives funding to bring an arts entity into that district. So my question is, if our new administration stops funding for the National Endowment for the Arts, and I will pause here to say, if anyone has any questions about what is actually happening with the National Endowment for the Arts, I have information and you can find me over the break, and I'd be happy to share it with you because this is something I'm very concerned about. If our new administration stops funding for the National Endowment for the Arts, how do we help fund all the arts? I know we can donate to individual entities, but that may leave some smaller, unknown fringe entities like Mango, Oklahoma, at risk. How do we in Cincinnati, the tri-state area, have a general arts, do we have in the Cincinnati area have a general arts fund if the endowment is compromised?
I can feel part of that. We're lucky in the Greater Cincinnati region to have a private United Arts Fund, the first and oldest in the country, which is ArtsWave, and it's done a lot over 87 years to support arts organizations, large and small. But even as the largest United Arts Fund in the country, it's still relatively small potatoes compared to what all the arts organizations in the community need. And it's ultimately only supported by about 40,000 of the 2 million people who live in our MSA area. We used to have, say, in the city of Cincinnati, we used to have designated funds for arts organizations. When we hit the period after 9/11, that disappeared. We briefly had artist fellowships through the city of Cincinnati. Those have now disappeared. So in terms of public funding models through the city and the county, those things do not exist. So most organizations are receiving funds from the Ohio Arts Council, which is the state arts council, who gets most of its funding from the National Endowment for the Arts. And the risk really is to the smallest organizations and in the smallest towns. Large institutions, their funding from National Endowment for the Arts often supports really big projects, new works, special works, bringing in big artists. So we risk losing new art when we get rid of the National Endowment for the Arts, because that's often where it's funded. But for those smaller organizations, that gift they get from the Ohio Arts Council, it may only be $5,000 or $10,000, but that's a significantly larger portion of their budget. And many of them simply can't survive without it. So I think my instinct would be to say, if this disappears at the federal level, there needs to be a rallying at the local level to think about public funding at the local level, and to think about whether we as a region need a public funding model across counties. That'd be really difficult politically to do, but it makes the most sense because we're all in this together. Just because there's a river doesn't mean we're not all in this together in this region. And also really focusing on how do we make sure that small organizations don't fall through the cracks, particularly because those small organizations also are usually the most focused on marginalized populations. So this really, really impacts them.
You know, I can speak as the person in charge of the budget at the NOW. We do not get funding from the National Endowment for the Arts, but we do get funding from the Ohio Arts Council, and it's not that much. It's a low 5 figures, but without it, we would not exist. Having that government funding for the arts is just so important because it validates the arts as a necessity in life. And I think that if we did lose the endowment for the arts, it would have to be a locally sourced group that continued to give out that money, to continue to dole out that money, and having it be a government entity validates it as something that's necessary.
The Symphony is a recipient of ArtsWave's funding. We see about between $2 and $3 million a year, and we're very lucky to have that. And it's not an insignificant amount of our budget, but we have other sources of funding as well. What Beth was saying about the need for the smaller organizations, I just really want to reiterate, because at the Symphony, for example, we are the largest arts organization in the city. We have a full-time grants writer. There's someone on staff constantly writing grants, which is how you make a lot of your funding from foundations and things like that. And the smaller your arts organization about trying to develop new audiences for the symphony. You don't start with classical music. That's not, these days anyway, not your entry into art. I think that you start your appreciation and your understanding of art at a more local level. I think you're going to a smaller theater that your sister's performing in or something. I mean, those are the connections that you are making. You have to have, I think, almost a personal introduction into art first. And then hopefully that grows and blossoms. And you're buying a $100 ticket to hear Tchaikovsky